What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Jersey Comic Crew. Chris and Rob here as always, and today we are going to break down, we're going to review the latest movie from Marvel, Eternals. And Rob, we have some good, I'm sure we have some bad, we have some mixed, we have some thoughts. I don't know about you, but my phone's been blowing up about my thoughts, including from you, sir.
Yes,
so
yes,
I
am
think
guilty.
you and I are both very ready to talk about this movie.
So, guys, obviously, this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't watched the movie ahead, please be aware that our conversation is going to talk about the events of the movie, themes, thematics, future stuff. We're going to do a separate video completely on the end credits scenes, guys, and what's going to happen for Marvel. That's going to be up within a day or two, so make sure you pay attention to that. Now, Chris, talking about this movie, of course, like any movie, there's good, there's bad. For me, I want to talk about some of the things that I did like. So visually, this movie, I do believe is stunning, right? The costuming and like just the actors' portrayals, beautiful. I think they did really good. And even to take the Eternals on to the next level, what they did with Icarus, right? And his powers and abilities as essentially the Superman of Marvel, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Superman of this version, right? He did great. Like, they showed his super strength, his laser beams, how he fought. Did a very good job. Some might say better than DC. But I don't think DC really had an issue with Superman and how to do it, because they kind of have an idea.
Yeah.
What they did with Makari was beautiful and fantastic.
It was amazing.
They did speedsters correctly, which DC had a very hard time to do in Justice League. Even in the Flash series, in the beginning, it did a good job. This did that, but better. Made it more not realistic, but make it more believable, which was really cool. I thought the Deviants looked great. The monsters, they were crazy. Mutants coming out, killing things. Looked great, monstrous. And then the emergence event, right? The whole world's coming down. Essentially, a Celestial's coming out of the ground. Visually looked great. You saw it from the sky. And the Celestial, the scope of the Celestials. You see Arishem, the red Celestial, talking to the Eternals. The difference in scope, beautiful. Made me really excited to see when they do Galactus, whenever they decide to do that in the MCU. But my major gripe with this movie is the fact that it kind of felt like two movies in one. It felt like the Deviant story was one thing, the Emergent story was another thing. And I understand they had a limited time to do, and they had to try to weave these stories together. But I think it would have been almost better to do two separate movies. One just focusing on the Deviants and how much they are a threat to Earth and why we need the Eternals. And then the second movie, once we know the Eternals and got used to them, the emergence is happening, a Celestial's coming out of the ground, things are going crazy. It just felt very forced together for me.
So yeah, what I thought with the Deviants is they weren't this giant threat that I kind of thought about going into the movie, right? The Eternals are there to protect us from the Deviants. The whole situation with Thanos didn't sell me on it, right? The fact that they didn't help with Thanos, even when they explained it, right? We get that scene with Dane Whitman and Cersei where he's like, why didn't you, if you guys have been here for 7,000 years and we saw this entire backstory with the Eternals on Earth and kind of slowly but surely helping mankind, you know, with technology and kind of, you know, excavation and military ops. But why didn't they help with Thanos, who is technically one of them, which also wasn't explained, right? So
well, I don't think they know that yet.
They might not know it, but they know who he is if they've been around for 7,000 years.
Fair.
So, like, that explanation wasn't good enough for me, being like, all right, you're just here now, besides the fact of the business side of things, right? The movie wasn't made yet. Marvel was saving them for Phase 4. But what I did like is right up with your alley, Rob. I loved Makari's powers. I love the speed. Hands down the best speedster style they've ever done, including when, you know, Marvel did it with Quicksilver.
Yep.
Way better than anything DC's done. It made me feel like she was actually a god.
Yeah.
Right? Even though that was her only power, the speed, but it wasn't like when they were zooming in on her, it didn't feel like she was slowing down and like doing the running in place thing. It still felt like you were watching her as fast as she was. Icarus's power set was really badass. I don't think the flying or anything was so different than what they've done with Superman.
No, it wasn't.
I just think they, you know, and they kind of like they focus really hard on Icarus's eye beams.
Yes.
Which I did like. And the power sets were cool. I thought Thena was badass. I thought Thena, when she was fighting, was absolutely like almost unstoppable. But yeah, I think this movie did, you know, suffer from pacing issues, from biting off more than it could chew issues.
Yeah.
In the sense of you nailed it on the head, right? The characters aren't necessarily as memorable. The plot points were kind of mushed together, and you forgot the third plot point, which was like Dane Whitman as Black Knight, which was kind of like, here's a little bit of him. He's gone for 2 hours. We'll see him at the end.
Yeah. So with Dane Whitman, we're gonna talk about him in the after credit scene because he's the one of the whole after credit scenes. But going more in depth with the Eternals, right? I feel like one of the few members that were actually rememberable was Kingo, because he's funny and you see that relation with his valet for 50 years. Kingo's rememberable. Gilgamesh was great. He was
Karun.
Yes.
What's his name?
He's super strong and he died. And I'm like, that sucks. But he was like one of the only ones I'm gonna remember from this movie. Everybody else kind of like, I know there's Pixie, there's Cersei, like they're there. And I know it because I also know the comics, but like, if I wasn't an avid comic reader, I'm sure in a couple weeks I'm not gonna remember anybody's name. I'm gonna be like, oh, the guy who could punch. Oh, Angelina Jolie's character. I almost wish they killed off more Eternals, so that way the ones that are left they could focus on and actually develop them as characters. And also, Kingo not being in the finale CGI fight and all that kind of stuff because you didn't believe with it. It felt like a cop out because they all had to combine together to take out the Celestials. I was like, why would he not be there? He's actually one of the ones I actually want to watch. Everybody else I almost don't care about.
I totally get that because Kingo was awesome. And I also like that it took him a little time to power up because that gives that like tension of like, is he going to get his blast off in time before he gets hit? So you have a little more, risk involved in that action. With Thena's like mind memory thing, I thought it was a complete waste.
I agree.
I thought Thena, when she's fighting and amazing, at the end where she's fighting off that like one deviant who was the only threat to them because the other deviants were like cannon fodder.
Yeah.
I thought when she's actually like in her prime, I'm like, that's what I want to see. Like Thena being a badass warrior who's unstoppable, basically like their Wonder Woman almost. The mind thing didn't really take me anywhere in this movie.
No.
It didn't add anything. It basically was there to like delay Gilgamesh to get him killed.
Yeah, and I felt like it was to get Gilgamesh killed, and like so that way you don't have Thena doing too much acting. My last overall thought with the Eternals as IP and characters, this movie has a lot of weight on it because in the comics, the Eternals, there's almost no need for the Eternals in the comic books, right? The Eternals, their need was like to protect humankind from the Deviants and these celestial beings and outside forces coming to Earth. Sounds cool on paper, but then you have the Avengers and X-Men. Everybody evolved. Yeah. Humanity evolved to stop this. And some of them are stronger than them. Like Hulk is arguably stronger than anybody in the Eternals.
Thor.
Right? Thor, exactly. Right? We're like, okay, so what's the purpose of them? Why do we care in the comics? We don't in the comics. Yeah. And now we turn to the movie. MCU has to like deal with this. Like nobody cares about the Eternals. Did they make us care about the Eternals? No, I don't care about the Eternals. I care about the Convergence. What does that mean? They stopped him. Okay, cool. And I care about Kit Harington, the Black Knight, in the after credits scene. Like, was it a bad movie? No. I still enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's a great popcorn movie. Was it a good movie? Not for me.
I agree with you, Rob. And I know I blew this up as like, this is going to be a sleeper. And I really thought it was. And the one thing I was right about is this is going to move forward for phase 4 and 5, which basically was all the after credit scene and last scene stuff.
Yeah.
Which is this massive foreshadowing, which obviously we'll talk about in the next video. But yeah, I will admit it. I was wrong, guys. I apologize.
I
was 95% wrong. I didn't want to be wrong either. Again, visually stunning. Cinematography masterpiece, right?
The visuals, very true.
The settings. But there's a lot of like scenes. Again, this is a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
How many scenes were there of just like random Eternals standing there looking at stuff, doing nothing?
The movie was a little bloated. It could have cut so much and like focused on it. Like I said, I think it was because they tried to do 2 movies in one, which I get why they need to do that.
I don't want 2 movies though. Like you're saying, you were saying like, oh, this would have been a great movie 1 and 2. I don't know if that's true on my view.
I see what you're saying.
Because I don't know if I need the Deviants, which you touched upon, right? Like the Deviants, why can't the Hulk or Spider-Man or Thor or our Avengers handle the Deviants? They didn't seem like they were like tougher than Loki or Thanos or even Ultron. So like why?
But they were gone.
They here needed for, and they were gone, right? But even when they came back, nothing gave me the interpretation of like, oh yeah, the Eternals need to be here for this.
No.
like our heroes could have taken care of that. And then
Easy.
number 2, like some of the characters were just kind of like really well. I thought Phastos' character was the best of all of them as far as development.
He was good.
The scene where he like was the cause of like the Japanese bombings because of the technology was one of my favorite scenes, which is a real reason why he doesn't do what he does anymore, right? I thought Sprite was the most useless character of the whole thing.
I thought Sprite was going to be my favorite. I was like, we had a big
stand Sprite.
I think they had a big opportunity with Sprite, and they just didn't nail it.
I just
and then they made her human, so I'm like, why do we have her?
After she stabbed Cersei, who, as much as I loved Cersei, I thought Gemma Cho was like very charming as the character role. Those power sets are not like, you know, what we think of as leadership quality power sets. Her powers are ridiculous, but like to end a movie by freezing something and not defeating, and like Icarus does what his, you know, legend is foretold, flying into the sun, isn't the kind of climax you're looking at. So again, like not the movie I was expecting at all. Some weird takes, about maybe like a 6.57 out of 10 for me.
So see, I can't give it a rating like that. Like I'm just gonna say it's a popcorn movie. It's fun. It's great. If I had to put a number on it, maybe 7, sure, 6.5, I guess. But yeah, guys. So guys, that is our review of the Eternals. Let us know down in the comments below, what do you thought of this movie? Who is your favorite Eternals character? Are you attached to this team? Did you like the power sets? Let us know down in the comments below.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, like, really helps the channel out a lot. If you're new, subscribe, turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss any more of our Eternals talk. As Rob said, we are doing a breakdown of the after credit scenes. You do not want to miss that. And as always, if you missed anything, check them out on the channel here. And as always, my name is Chris Heller. That is Rob Moran. We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and we will see you next time.